What's good with y'all, ladies and gentlemen? This is Mario Matthews, owner and operator of MinutesTillDawn Productions, and author of the new book, Hurricane America. Hurricane America is based on the true events of Hurricane Katrina 2005, as told by myself and my grandmother, the co-writer of this book. We are telling the before and after, the before, during, and after conditions of the average Black American family during Hurricane Katrina and entailing our experience as a family, how we evacuated out of the disaster area, and what can be done for Black America in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again. You can purchase this book. This book right now, it is actually available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and Kobo, and iOS, Android, Google Play Store. So you can actually buy this book in paperback and ebook form. Hurricane America is in stores now. Thank y'all for all the love, all the support. Now, this video is actually a response video, and I don't do much response videos because I try to stay away from all the drama and try to, focus on more important things when it comes to politics and, creating intellectual property such as my book and things of that nature. But I actually wanted to do a response video to a recent video done by Dr. Hasan Johnson. And he had two amazing gentlemen on his program, BGS Ibmor and attorney Dennis Spurling. They spoke about, and the video is titled Bred Black Men with BGS and attorney Dennis Spurling. I will leave a link in the comments, or rather in the description, in order to highlight this video that I'll be speaking about. Also, I will also leave a link to Dennis Spurling's channel and BGS's channel, who I am also subscribed to. I'm also subscribed to Dr. Hasan Johnson. And, I would just link their channels just to give you guys a perspective of where and who am I talking to. But in regards to that, a recent video released by Dr. Hasan Johnson and the Black Male Institute for Black Male Studies, the Institute for Black Male Studies, rather, they spoke about Black men and Black people in general being bred like cattle in the United States of America after the abolishment of the transatlantic slave trade. And Dennis Spurling and BGS, they did individual videos in regards to this topic that I will also link in the description, so you guys could check that out. And I actually wrote a couple notes in here, so I don't want to ramble on too long, so let's get right into it. So a brief description: the video came about due to the studies and conversations of BGS and attorney Dennis Spurling. They spoke on their channels about these. The conversation being how Black people were bred like cattle in the United States of America after the transatlantic slave trade was outlawed. Dennis Spurling, in his video, spoke about the reparations conversation specifically to Black American descendants of slavery, and how all parties, including African families, corporations, and countries, who willingly participated in the transatlantic slave trade, sold slaves, and profited, also need to be held accountable and sued. Now, BGS, he had a video outlining how Thomas Jefferson was instrumental with abolishing the transatlantic slave trade. However, this was more so a business move than a sort of altruistic helping out Black people sort of move. Reason being, once the transatlantic slave trade was over, the corporations in the U.S. who had a monopoly in the market for breeding slaves here in the U.S., now had little to no competition from slaves being bought and sold from the West African coast and brought to the Caribbeans to ultimately be brought here to America. Now that that institution has been removed, there is the dawn of a corporate structure that purposely bred slaves here in the United States and utilized those slaves and that capital resource to make so certain that they made money off of the fact that, certain slave farms in Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Orleans, all these, Louisiana, all these particular slave ports are now no longer competition to the breeding farms that Thomas Jefferson himself had ownership of. So, with that being said, there was a couple points in Professor Hasan Johnson's video that I just want to discuss, because all of these things have already been discussed, as BGS outlined, in over the past 40 or so years. However, just recently, the ADOS movement have also echoed these same sentiments. Antonio Moore, who is a attorney in California, and Yvette Carnell, who is a poli-sci grad from I believe is it UCLA? No, it's not UCLA. It's another one. Forgive me. But with that being said, Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell have outlined numerous shows throughout the last 3-4 years in which they had this conversation as well. So that begs the question, I wonder if there's communication between you guys, Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell, because that's the whole point. The whole point of the ADOS movement is to seek damages that have been dealt due to reparation, due to the dawn of slavery, which is essentially reparations specifically to American descendants of slavery. Now, I just want to give a quick sidebar. This is not to be entangled with I don't use these words anymore. Foundational Black Americans. There is no association there. There has since been a divide between these particular parties. As a matter of fact, FBA is a sort of, a clone organization that's trying to profit off of the ADOS movement. But, I digress. Getting back into the video because I don't want to make this long. There's a couple points I want to make about the video. And I want to see what you guys think about it. So here's some questions, right? So slavery wasn't personal. It was a business. That was one point that was brought up in Dr. Hasan Johnson's video. Slavery wasn't personal. It was a business. Dennis Spurling spoke and said that it is best to take your emotions out of the situation when it comes to pursuing damages that may have occurred to you and your family during, the institution of slavery. My question is, shouldn't emotions be a centerpiece when it comes to corralling the public opinion? And the reason why I asked that question is, later on in the video, Dennis Spurling and BGS, everybody agrees that in order for there to be any push regarding reparations in the legal process, whether we're pursuing it in the UN, on the World Court, or whether or not we're pursuing it within the confines of the United States of America, there should be public support. At least 51% of the Black community should be on board. And there should be a component that is vocal and engaged in the public discourse when it comes to this particular topic of seeking reparations for Black American descendants of slaves, descendants of slavery rather, in relation to European and African corporations who've had a hand in it. Wouldn't you think it would be a crucial part of the discussion to make sure that Black Americans' emotions are within this particular context? Because emotions is what gets stuff done. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is because it is one thing for a lawyer to be in a courtroom making a case before a judge and before, defendants and witnesses and all this stuff, the jury and all that, all that good stuff. But it's a whole nother thing for the public perception of said matter to surround the courtroom and surround all these institutions and, the opposition, if you will, toward this particular case. Because if the public is emotionally engaged in this type of endeavor, then not only do you have an emotional investment into it, but you have people on the ground who are literally pouring themselves into getting this issue done. So in that regard, I would say it all depends on which party we're talking about. If we're talking about the lawyers in the courtroom, then yeah, they have to be emotionalists about it. They have to go about it, do their thing, do it by the book, because remember, it ain't personal, right? It's business. Well, when it comes to public perception, you feel me? That engagement should be predicated on emotion. You feel me? I'll give you an example. The Me Too movement. Okay? Inside of those courtrooms, everything was about, well, I wouldn't quite say everything was about a book, but everything was robotic. It was, this task gets done, this task gets done, this task gets done, this outcome is made. You feel me? But surrounding those courtrooms, you had emotions flaring up all over the place. People on Twitter blowing up. We got people in their jobs going, just going ham about it. People talking to family members and friends. People Xing people out of their lives because they don't agree with some particular, stances of men and women and all this stuff. That emotional component within the human condition is of high importance. And if we are going to sway public opinion, if we are going to get people, especially Black American descendants of slavery, to understand the facts of history, that their African brothers and sisters, unfortunately, some of them were in the position to capture and sell their own brethren into the institution of slavery. If we are going to get that message across, and if we are going to get people engaged into this endeavor, emotions are of great importance. Okay? Let's see. Number 2, there will be no legal case if reparations specifically for ADOS people, let me start that. I'm sorry. There will be no legal case for reparations specifically for ADOS people if the damaged parties refuses to hold all perpetrators accountable. And by all perpetrators, we are discussing not only European powers who bought the slaves and worked the slaves to death, and eventually abolish the transatlantic slave trade and start to breed slaves in-house into a lower slavery class that essentially bake them into a class system where they are the perpetual bottom, where we are the perpetual bottom. But we're also talking about parties who sold us in the initial transatlantic slave trade, i.e., African families, corporations, tribes, and nations at the time who profited off of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, to this point, I agree. I absolutely agree 100%. My question is, and this is maybe a question more so to Attorney Dennis Spurling than, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson or BGS. My question is, as Black American descendants of slavery, ADOS people, who should be the first target? Should we target African nations who profited off of the slave trade, African tribal men, tribes, and corporations who purposely sold slaves or sold other tribes and other slave or other family members into slavery? Or should we target the European corporations, businesses, institutions, and governmental bodies, i.e. the U.S. federal government, who sanctioned and bred our people into where they are now? Who should we target first? And now here's a follow-up question. This same conversation has been had by the ADOS movement already, i.e. Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell. They've already spoken about this. My question to you guys is there any conversations going on with you three gentlemen and Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore? Because that's the whole point of the ADOS movement. The whole point of the ADOS movement is to, seek damages for reparations, specifically for Black American descendants of slavery. So is there any conversations going on with you guys? On Juneteenth, the ADOS Foundation, the new ADOS Foundation, who has been finally established by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, they have now established the ADOS Foundation, and they are having their very first town hall on YouTube at the YouTube page ADOS Foundation. Are you guys being involved in a process? Are you guys speaking to anyone? Are you guys interested in joining the process of outlining and doing what is necessary to have that conversation with people within this movement? Because as far as I'm concerned, you guys are absolutely right. In order for this to be brought to the world stage or to, courts within the United States of America, the public must be serious about having the backs of the people who will be in the courtroom representing them. As far as I'm concerned, right now, the ADOS movement are the only people in Black America doing just that. So you guys posed the question to us: are we serious? Black Americans in America who descend from American slavery, are we serious enough to finally begin to hold all parties accountable within this space? And I go as far as to say, yes. You have a group of people right now, the ADOS movement, who are so serious that they just created their own nonprofit organization. They've already been talking to political leaders and engaging within the public discourse in regards to this very topic. They've been serious for a long time. We've been serious for a long time. And yes, even as a media figure, on YouTube in this particular case, I've myself personally been attempting to create my own ADOS chapter here in the Northwest. Here's the question. Are you guys serious? Because if you are, then if anybody can represent any point that was made by you guys in this video, then it is yourselves. You guys are the educators among us. You guys are the leaders among us. Why are you guys in conversations with the ADOS movement? Are you guys trying to be involved in anything that's going on? Are you guys trying to commit your resources and your equity and your time, your energy into doing that which you state must be a necessity? Are you involved? Are you talking to Yvette? Are you talking to Tone? I'm just curious, because this is where the rubber meets the road. You asked if there was people serious. Here are some serious people. Now, can we get y'all together to start forming Voltron? You feel me? I say Ultron, not Ultron, bro. Anyway, let's continue. I don't want to keep rambling too long. So, last thing, Black women as heads of households have been artificially installed into positions, in a de facto gynocracy, and Black men and boys purposely lack education and skills that are passed down, practices from the institution of slavery. Now, I hear BGS and attorney Dennis Spurling and Dr. Hasan Johnson. I hear you guys talking about this all the time. How, gynocentric, the de facto gynocracy that have been installed into Black American communities are artificially created by the institution of slavery that was governed by the United States government and white families within the United States of America who bred families, Black families, into existence. You feel me? I hear you guys talking about this particular topic when it comes to Black women not being able to give up whatever moniker of power that they may have when it comes to family and income and getting being more submissive and things of that nature to their man. You feel me? Here's my question. And in respect to BGS and in respect to Dr. Tiasan, I just want to make this very clear. Here's my question. My question to y'all is, if this is the case when it comes to, Black women proactively, being installed as the heads of household within the United States of America, how do we get from the point in which we are advocating for reparations specifically to Black American descendants of slavery and carve out men in a particular category under the banner of reparations? How do we get to a point to where we have this discussion without you guys being at the table? Let me say this more clearly, I suppose. I don't know if you guys get that. Let me just say this. If there is a necessity for Black men to have a specific carve out within the context of reparations for American descendants of slavery. How do we have that conversation without y'all being there? Okay? Because as far as I'm concerned, Antonio Moore have put in a great deal of work to show just the astronomical devastation that black men have been facing within, the context of today's age when it comes to mass incarceration, and how black men have been targeted due to the crack epidemic. And with his documentary Freeway Crack in the System, he actually outlined that. So my question is, and I know you guys know about Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell because, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson, I watch your show all the time. You routinely make references and you routinely have dialogue that that follows the same sort of rhetoric that Yvette and Tone make, i.e., one of the data numbers as far as black male incarceration. Antonio Moore was the one that brought that to light. Flat blackness, that term was actually coined by Yvette Carnell. So that's my question to you guys. It is a necessity for black men to give a specific redress in this context when it comes to reparations to black American descendants of slaves. Okay? It is a necessity for us to have that. The question is, why aren't you guys in the room with Yvette, with Tone, and with people at the table to have this discussion? Because that's how we're gonna get this to come about. You feel me? It is imperative that the people on the ground who is making the moves and who is trying their best to work towards that which was outlined in your video, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson, that we need to get the public on board. We need to get the average black American family on board when it comes to seeking damages for everybody who were involved in the process, whether they are African corporations, whether they're European nations, whether it was one of the daughters of the trade who actually probably was a mixed woman who owned slaves somewhere in Virginia. You see what I'm saying? These books have been read. Yvette Carnell had a whole year and a half, 2 years worth of book clubs where she read things like The Daughter of the Trade and Where Do We Go From Here, and what was the other one? Oh man, it was a lot of books. Okay, there's a lot of books. So there is on the ground grassroots movement when it comes to this thing. My question is, are you guys willing to be in the room to have this discussion, to have this conversation, to come to the table and make the case, make the demand for black men specifically? Because as far as I'm concerned, I watch y'all shows all the time, and I am in no disagreement. You guys make a amazing case for black men to have a specific redress within the confines of reparations for the entire black American descendant of slave community. You feel me? You make a good case. My question is, why aren't you talking to the people, the grassroots people who are making it happen? I want to know. You see what I'm saying? Like, I want to know what is stopping you guys for getting more involved. Because we are having discussions. I've been in rooms and chat rooms with Yvette and Tone. I've talked to them myself. You feel me? So with that being said, I really appreciate y'all. This has gone on for way too long. Thank y'all for all the love, all the support. Again, my book Hurricane America is in stores now, telling the story of the average Black American descendant of slave family who went through Hurricane Katrina and how we can prevent this from happening in the future as a nation. Please like, please comment, please subscribe to the channel. We are trying to reach the next pinnacle of subscription. Please apply, please help a boy out. You feel me? And much love to y'all, man. Y'all be cool. Peace.